My dear students, welcome to one more session of the chapter Web Designing. In our previous session, we have explained about the basic structure of HTML and simple HTML tags along with HTML structure. So in this class, in this session, I am going to talk about one more tag, that is frames. What are frames in HTML? In HTML, frames are used to divide the web browser window into number of individual sections. And each section loads individual application or program. So what is the definition of frames? In HTML, frame tag or frames, the meaning is used to divide the web browser window into number of individual sections, and each section loads individual application or program. What's the meaning of this? Now let us write a simple program what you have learned in your previous sessions. See, a simple program with HTML and body tag. I am right here gsipucmysuru college, and we are closing with body tag as well as HTML tag. And this is a simple HTML program, and you know at this stage how do we save it? We have to save this particular file with the extension .html. So for example, I am going to save the file as file1.html. Now already at this stage you know how do you open this file or how do you execute this file. So all of you know that this particular file what you have written HTML program, this has to be opened in web browser software. So we have go to any of the web browser. If you select this particular file and you can open the file. So once if you open the file, what you have learned so far is so see, suppose this is your web browser window with the title here, and here when you execute, what would be the output of this program? So here the content is gsipu college. It will appear here gsipu college. So this is the output of this. So what is it here? What you have learned so far is you used to write only one HTML program that has to be that used to open in one web browser window. So output will be, you can see the output in that window. Now just observe this. This entire window is going to occupy only this much one program, isn't it? Observe this. This one program, it used to display in only one web browser window. Suppose if you write one more HTML file, one more example. So suppose if I write one more HTML program, then suppose if I save the file as file2.html. In this case, now if you open file2.html, again it is only one program. It used to display inside this web browser window. So this is what you have learned so far. So now you come to this point, frames. What are frames now? Look at the definition here. Frames are used to divide the web browser window. See, this is your web browser window. This is your web browser window. So this can be divided into number of individual section, number of sections. How do we divide this? Look at this example here. Suppose this is your web browser window. Web browser window. So this I can divide in number of sections. Like what? I can divide like this. See here, this is columns. So I have divided into number of columns. Or else I can also divide this into number of rows. So like this. This is web browser, it is divided into number of rows. So these frames are used to divide, see, this web browser window into number of sections like this. So here we have divided into 3 columns, and in this example we have divided this into 3 rows. So that is the meaning of frames. Frames are used to divide the web browser window into number of sections. Here this is one section, second section, third section. In this example, one section, second section, and third section. And what is the next definition here? Next sentence is each section loads individual application or program. So what is the meaning of this? Here, this, for example, in this example, there are 3 rows, isn't it? So this window is divided into 3 sections. This one particular section, row 1, in one row, we can load or we can open one file. For example, file1.html, then you can display here. Similarly, if you have written one more HTML file, that can be displayed here. So if you write one more HTML file, that can be displayed here. So what is the meaning of this? So here each rows or each section will be load separate programs, separate individual application or program like this. See, this says one HTML file. So suppose if this is file 1. So file 1 it can be written here. Suppose if I write one more HTML file, it comes here. Suppose if you have written one more HTML program, and if you open this, this can be displayed in row 3. So this is the meaning of the frames, or this is the uses of frames. So frames are used to divide web browser into number of sections in the form of rows and columns. So this is the definition of frames. Now look at some of the examples. This frame tag, it is a frame tag. This comes, we are using along with frame set tag. This frames we are using here frame as well as frame set tag. This frame set tag has attributes. It has attributes. They are COLN. That is COLS. This stands for column. So what is the meaning of this? We are using frame set tag here. This has the attribute, one attribute is columns. So here we are dividing these frames into vertical columns or vertical frames. Suppose if we say frames, it divide the web browser window into vertical frames. Vertical frames. And the meaning is, suppose this is your web browser window. This is a web browser window, and here we are using these columns to divide us into number of columns. So this columns attribute used to divide these frames or web browser window into vertical frames. What is the syntax of this? How do we use this? This first, normally the syntax frame set, columns, and here frame set, columns equals, and here we are mentioning here how many columns we want. How many columns? We are representing with the number of percent. Suppose if I say 25%, 25%, and 50%, I am closing this with tag. This is, I am using this tag. And here, this in another method, instead of using this percentage, we can also represent with the pixels. With pixels, that is, we can write 200, 300, 500, and we can close this. So this is, either way we can gives the values, whether 25 with percentage or with number of pixels. So in this examples, frame set, columns 25, 25, 50. So if you look at the considered example, output would be, it divides into, you can see there are three values. So we are dividing this web browser window into three vertical frames, that is columns. So you can assume that it comes in this, first with 25%, another, and remaining with the 50%. So this is your column 1, column 2, column 3. So this is how we are using this column attribute. So column attribute, it divides the web browser window into vertical frames. Now look into that one more attribute, rows. Next attribute is rows. Syntax, frame set, rows. So here what definition? This rows attributes divides the web browser window into horizontal frames. Horizontal frames. You take same examples, frame set, rows, here 25, 25%, 50%, or with the number of pixels. So here we have mentioned here three values. So in the output would be, so this window will be divided into three vertical frames in the form of rows. It would be, so this is your web browser window, and here it divides like this. So this is your row 1, row 2, and row 3. So here frame set attribute are used to define the number of sections in the form of rows and as well as columns. Rows attribute, it divides the web browser window into horizontal frames. Next, another attribute, next we have one more attribute is called border. This border attribute is used to specify the size of the border of each frame. So here what is syntax? Normally the syntax will be, we are using along with the frame set. So the frame set equals columns, frame set equals columns equals 30% and 40%. Along with this, we can write here border equals to 5. Border equals to 5. The meaning is we are dividing this column into three columns, each column, in each border, the border of each frame is 5. So here in this example, as we have mentioned as a column, so what is the border here? Border is this one. So this is the border size, approximately size 5. So this is we are talking about the border attribute. Next attribute is frame spacing. Frame spacing is one of the attribute. It specifies the space between each frames in an web browser window. What do you mean of space here? Space between that. See, suppose in this example, you take an example like this. This is with the web browser window, and here, suppose if there are three sections here or 3 columns. So here the space between this. So what is the space between this? Normally you come across like this. The space between, see, from this is one column and this is another column. So the space between these two, this is column 1, column 2 and column 3. So this frame spacing is defined or specified the space between these two frames or individual frames. So this is frame spacing attribute. This frame set, along with this we are using frame tag. This frame tag and this has attribute SRC. SRC stands for source or location. Here, this is the place where we are going to mention the location of a particular file. As I have told you in the beginning, isn't it? File1.html. I told you in the beginning one example, file1.html. So that file1.html we supposed to write here. So this is this SRC attribute. It indicates the location of an application or location of a particular HTML file. So apart from this, we also have one more tag, name. This used to give or mention names to the each section of a frame. What is the meaning of name here? See, suppose if this is your in a web browser window, suppose I have divided like this. There are 2 rows and 2 columns. I can give name for this one frame. I can write here PCMB. This is a name, PCMC. Similarly, I can name the individual section with the help of this name attribute. So this is one more attribute, name attribute. So now with the help of this, let us write a simple program, or let us learn a few syntax of this frame tag. And one thing you have to keep in your mind, this frame tag replaces body tag of your HTML file. Now look into that. For example, now I'm going to write here frame set. One example frame set. Here say I'm going to say columns equals 25%, 25%, 25%. I am closing this with this, and here inside this first line shows the number of columns, isn't it? 1, 2, 3. There are 3 columns in this frames. Now under each column, now we have to write the frame tag here, and here I am going to write here SRC. SRC equals, and here we have to give the file name of particular application, particular file. Then apart from this, there are 3 columns here, so I have to write 3 columns here for 3 syntax. SRC equals to, this is for one more section, and a frame SRC equals, this is one more section, and here there are 3 columns, so we have given each column with particular application or individual program. Now we have to close this with frame set tag. So if you look, what will be the output of this example here? As we have mentioned here, this is web browser window, and here columns, there are 3 values here, so it will be divided into 3 sections. And here, because we have given 3 different file names, so individual file name, for example, if it is file1.html, file2.html, and file3.html. So when you execute this, when you open this, so output would be here. The content of file 1, it will be, for example, if I write here PCMB, up here, PCMC, and EBAC. So you can see output would be like this. So here this is, as we know that, a separate individual section, separate program. This is separate program. So how do you, what would be your this one now? In this example, if I say separate program, you can imagine like this. Say your program, HTML program, will consist of main HTML. This is HTML, body, and this is main program, and this is body. I am closing this with HTML. So this is your main program. Similarly, you have to write 3 individual programs separately for this. For example, just I write here once again, this is main program. In main program, and here this is small HTML, and here body tag, and here say PCMB. I am closing this with body tag as well as HTML. So here this is, I am going to save this file as file1.html. I am going to save this as file1.html, and this is main.html. So what normally we do is, so this is main program and this is individual program, file1.html. Similarly, suppose if you want to display section, 3 sections here, web browser window. See, suppose if I say here PCMB, see this is one program. Similarly, you're supposed to write one more program for PCMS, PCMC, and one more for EBAC. So this is your main program. So this main program, so when you work with the frame tags, it consists of, suppose in this example, there are 3 columns, 3 individual files like this. Apart from this, one main program, one main HTML. And inside main HTML, we are writing this code here. So these codes we are writing in main program. So this is how your frame works in HTML. So normally, suppose if this is going to divide into 3 columns. Similarly, suppose if I want to divide this into number of rows, just I will modify this frame set rows equals to 25, 25, 25. And here, what would be the output of this? Now, when you execute this main program, as by looking at this is the web browser window, and as per the syntax, there are 3 rows. So this will be divided into 3 rows, and here with the help of this one, here in row 1, file 1, HTML, the content of this will be displayed here. For example, this is PCMB. Similar to this. This is PCMB one file. Similarly, we write here PCM CS EBAC. So here again, these are individual program, and these syntax we supposed to include in main program like this. And here already I told you this main program, this frames, it replaces body tag. In the place of this, we are writing frame set tag, and here we are closing this with frame set tag. See, this is your frames in HTML. Now it is going to divide like this. Okay. Suppose I want to divide this into 2 rows and 2 columns. For example, another method of using this will be, I say frame set, here rows equals 25%, and continuation of this, columns equals 25% and 25%, closing this. And here inside this I can write frame tag with S03 equals location of a particular file. For example, file1.html, I'm closing this. And again here frame SRC, this is file2.html, and frame SRC file3.html, and frame SRC file4.html, and next we have to close this frame set tag. This is frame set tag. So here, what would be the output of this, students? Here, just look at the syntax here. Here, with the help of frame set, we have divided into 2 rows as well as 2 columns. So in that way, you can see probably that would be the output of this. Here there are rows, there are 2 values, columns, 2 values. So first here output will be like this. So here 2 rows, 2 columns. In this example, this is row 1, row 2, column 1, column 2. There are 4 values here. So in each individual section or frames, we can load individual program or application. In this example, suppose this is file1.html. So the content of this, for example, in the content is PCMB. It comes like this: PCMB, then PCMC, yes, EBAC, EBAS. For example, see, suppose if you write a program like this to display like this, 4 programs will be, HTML program will be there. So in this frame set tag, we have divided this web browser window into 4 parts or 4 sections, 2 rows as well as 2 columns. So this is one method of using frame set tag here. Students, just let me summarize what are frames once again. Frames are nothing but tags in HTML used to divide the web browser window into number of sections, or called as number of frames, and each and every section it loads separate individual application or programs.